So once you understand the properties of determinants, there are some important determinants which you need to remember, because these will be asked very often in competitive examinations. So these determinants are very often asked in competitive examinations. It will be easy for you to solve those problems if you directly remember the formulas for their determinants. So the first determinant which you need to remember, 1, 1, 1, x, y, z, x square, y square, z square. So the value of this determinant is x minus y times y minus z times z minus x. Next, the determinant 1, 1, 1, x, y, z, x cube, y cube, z cube is equal to x minus y times y minus z times z minus x times an x plus y plus z is extra. So if you have x square, y square, z square here, you just have x minus y into y minus z into z minus x. If you have x cube, y cube, z cube here, then you have an x plus y plus z extra. And determinant 1, 1, 1, x square, y square, z square, x cube, y cube, z cube. So you have squares in the second row, cubes in the third row. So and this determinant is x minus y times y minus z times z minus x times xy plus yz plus zx. So these are three very important determinants which will be very useful for you if you remember this. Next, you have one more determinant called the circulant. So let us look at that also. A circulant is the determinant A, B, C, B, C, A, C, A, B. Is you just change the numbers in a circular fashion. First row is ABC, the second row is BCA, third row is CAB. So if you have a determinant like this, the value of this determinant is equal to minus of A plus B plus C times A square plus B square plus C square minus AB minus BC minus CA. Or this can also be written as minus of A cube plus B cube plus C cube minus 3ABC. You know that A plus B plus C times A square plus B square plus C square minus AB minus BC minus CA is equal to minus of A cube plus B cube plus C cube minus 3ABC. And this is also equal to minus half times A plus B plus C times A minus B whole square plus B minus C whole square plus C minus A whole square. So let us look at the derivations after this. First, you need to remember these as regular formulas. Now, this formula is important because you have some important conclusions that you can draw from the determinant of circulant. So the first conclusion is, if circulant is equal to 0, then what is your conclusion? Circulant is equal to 0 implies there are two conditions, either of which have to be valid. So let us use this formula. This formula is a very special formula. So if the product of these two is equal to 0, then either A plus B plus C has to be equal to 0, or this term has to be equal to 0. But this term, if this term has to be equal to 0, you can see that this term is made up of squares of three numbers. Square is always non-negative. So can sum of three non-negative numbers be equal to 0? Because if sum of three numbers have to be equal to 0, at least one of them have to be negative, which should cancel the sum of the other two. But all these numbers are having squares. That means none of these numbers are negative. So if the sum of these three have to be equal to 0, then this has to be 0, this has to be 0, and this has to be 0. That means A minus B is equal to 0, A is equal to B, B is equal to C, and C is equal to A. So if the circulant is 0, either A plus B plus C is equal to 0 or A is equal to B is equal to C. So one of these conditions have to be valid if the circulant is equal to 0. So in JEE Mains, this is one of the most important concepts where questions come very often. So whenever a determinant is equal to 0, first you need to check whether it is a circulant or not. If it is a circulant, you have a very easy conclusions that you can draw. So either the sum of the elements of rows should be equal to 0 or all the elements of the rows have to be equal. Next, if A, B, C are positive, is if the circulant is made of positive numbers, then circulant value is always negative. It's always negative. If the circulant is made of positive numbers, the value of this determinant will always be negative. You can conclude it from this formula. Because A, B, C are positive, so A plus B plus C is positive. This is always positive. So into minus half will always be a negative number. So if a circulant is 0, these conditions, and if the circulant is made of positive numbers, then the value of circulant is always negative. So these are two important conclusions which you need to keep in mind.